We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for December 13th. I am David Garner, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 30480, dismissed. Case number 30497, dismissed. Case number 30419, dismissed. And case number 30436, dismissed. The administrative docket starts on page 2 with case number 30. It's duplicated. With case number 30543 and goes through case number 30560. And also includes case number 30436 on the supplement. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zish. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters of the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with moving to case number 30538, application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Blue Buttes Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 21, 22, 27, and 28, Township 151 North, Range 95 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, Levi Greenlee, Jacob Smith, and Carson Noble, and they should all 3 be on the line.
Mr. Greenlee,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Levi, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I'm Levi Greenlee. I'm a senior land negotiator employed by Hess Corporation with the business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Levi, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the spacing units at issue today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Greenlee be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Levi, let's start with your exhibit number 1, if we could have you identify the proposed spacing unit.
Yes, Exhibit 1 is a location map of Township 151 North, Range 95 West, McKenzie County. In blue are the existing DSUs, the laydown of Section 21 and 22, the stand-up of Section 28 and 33, and the standalone section of Section 27. In green is the requested 2560 spacing.
Okay. Then let's move on to exhibit number 2, if you can take us through the working interest in the spacing unit and the underlying units.
Yeah, Exhibit 2 is the proposed 2560. In yellow is the Hess-operated BB-ED DSU, where Hess owns 100% working interest. In blue is the Hess-operated BB Federal B DSU, where Hess owns 100% working interest. And in green is an undeveloped section of Section 27, where Hess owns roughly 215 net mineral acres of fee ownership and state ownership. And the Forest Service also owns 320 acres of unleased interest. So in the combined working interest of the proposed 2560, Hess owns 97.49% and others with 2.5%. Most of that acreage in Section 27 cannot be nominated to lease by Hess. but we will be getting a communitization agreement with the BLM to include the federal minerals in our calculation. This was done prior when we drilled the BBEDLE well, which is within sections 28 and 33.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Greenlee. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Mr. Smith. I'm sorry,
Sir.
question from the staff.
Levi, you said most of the land in 27 can't be nominated. Is that the 320 acres of Forest Service land?
Yeah, that's correct.
So when you say it, why can't it be nominated?
We have correspondence with the BLM that has stated that. I'm sorry, we're getting some feedback, so if I stop, that's why. The BLM has given us some correspondence that the Forest Service is able to decide certain acreage cannot be nominated for leasing. In this situation, the BLM minerals, the Forest Service has decided to not nominate or has decided to have that acreage not be available for nomination for leasing. So we in the past, we essentially signed the CA with them, letting them know, or essentially stating that we are going to treat them as or unleased interest, and we are going to pay them unleased interest royalty as long as we don't traverse the tract. So if you include it into the DSU, you pay them as unleased interest just as long as you're not within the tract itself.
So where is that 320 acres?
It's scattered throughout the section. We've got the majority of the west half of the section is some of the acreage, the northern half of section 27, and then a little bit of the northeast quarter.
So with the commission's policy that you can't drill the lease line well without the underlying space unit being developed, how are you going to drill the lease line well?
Mark, I think we'd probably be seeking relief from that, and maybe Carson can kind of address or explain that really you can't otherwise probably develop 27 just due to kind of the development around there and some of the ownership issues in the other lands, and if they're not allowed to drill the lease line well, that 27 that could end up stranded and not get any development, and those owners might not receive any royalties if we can't get relief from that requirement that you have to drill in 27, since the Forest Service issues are really going to prevent that from happening.
Well,
Is that accurate, Levi, or can Carson, when we get to him, address that?
we're back. For some reason, our Zoom disconnected. Can you all hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I didn't catch anything that was just said there. I'm sorry. But I think I left off explaining where the federal minerals were and where the fee, where the other interest was that Hess had. I just wanted to catch back up.
Yeah, so we had a discussion then, Levi and Carson, with Mr. Bohr. He explained, as you're aware, there's the policy that, they typically won't allow a lease line well to be drilled until there's development, in all of those other lands. And it was my understanding, as I explained to Mr. Bohr, and you guys can correct me, but there's really no ability to develop 27 due to kind of these ownership issues with the feds, and then the Forest Service restrictions on nominating those lands. And then also, in addition to, there's not really ability to kind of develop it, from other lands and develop some of those interests in 27. So it was my understanding that if there's that requirement, you wouldn't be able to drill as well. And then the owners in 27, wouldn't get anything. There'd be waste, and then there wouldn't be any opportunity for them to receive any royalties on their interests.
Yes, so that's correct. So because of this area, it's very the elevation changes. It makes it very difficult for surface locations. So our surface locations, where they are to the west for our BV Federal and where the BV ED DSUs are really limited. You cannot go any further east and be able to build locations just because of the territory out there. But also, sections 26, 23 to the east are also under the same restrictions with leasing and are undeveloped. And then if you go to the south, or the northern portion of that section is also restricted, but the southern section is developed by Burlington. And so you really there's really no other way you can develop any of this acreage out here other than our proposal with the lease line wells. And again, just I wanted to reiterate, we did drill a lease line BB ED well, and this problem was discussed within that case when we had that heard too a few years back.
So is that, Levi, is that 27, 28, 33, 34? Is that the 2560 where a lease line was
Yes.
developed between 28 and 33 and 27 and 34?
That's correct. Yep, that was the spacing.
So Levi, if you could submit a supplement with the depicting where that federal acreage is in 27 and an explanation.
Okay.
And an explanation as you gave it here of why it can't be developed, why it can't be leased. That correspondence with the BLM. And then do you know with the lease line development along the west side of 27 and now presumably along the north side of 27, does that put them in a drainage situation where they'd have to lease?
I really can't speak on that. I don't think that conversation has been discussed with the BLM. The only correspondence we have is what we've received when we tried to drill the ED. So that's all I can really speak on.
Okay.
The correspondence just mentioned that they're going to grant us the CA with the stipulation that we cannot traverse said section. There was no rebuttal of the development.
Okay, well, if you could submit those items for the record, we'll take it under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, how long do you need the record open for?
Yeah, Levi, how long do you think you'll be able to take to gather that info and put that exhibit together?
I would request a week. I'd like to get it in before Christmas time.
How about like the week from Friday, like the 22nd? Just make sure you have enough time.
Yes, that works.
Okay, the record will remain open till December 22nd. Moving on to Mr. Smith.
Sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Jacob, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. Jacob Smith, employed by Hess Corporation as a geologist. Business address 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
Jacob, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Smith be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Jacob, let's start with exhibit number 3, if you can take us through your structure map.
Sure. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and requested 2560 in green. the top middle bucket structure map with a 50-foot contour interval showing the formations dipping to the east. And the purple 8A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and let's move on to the cross-section.
Yep, this is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing the targeted formations present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Smith. I'd offer Exhibits 3 and 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Noble,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Carson, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I'm Carson Noble, employed by Hess Corporation as a reservoir engineer. Business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Carson, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes.
And have your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the hearings?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Noble be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Carson, looking at exhibit number 5, can you take us through your proposed development on this spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows proposed development of the 2560 for sections 21, 22, 27, and 28. The highlighted dash green line to the southern portion is the proposed 2-mile lease line well to be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation from the pad denoted blue. Not shown on this map. There will also be wells drilled onto the eastern DSU, not pictured. Just wanted to let the commission know that this is not a single well trip.
Right. Let's move on then to exhibit number 6, and if you can take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Sure. So Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single 2-mile Middle Bakken well in the Blue Buttes area. The expected EOR is about 1.2 million stock tank barrels with a 4% recovery factor. These economics will run at $62 a barrel of WTI flat at 100% working interest. The expected NPV is 9.2 million with a rate of return in excess of 100%.
Okay. Carson, in your opinion, would establishment of this overlapping 2560 to allow for this well, is that going to prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 30538. Case number 30539. Application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Oliver Bakken Pool to establish 2 overlapping stand-up 19-20 acre spacing units described as sections 211 and 14 and sections 23, 26, and 35, Township 157 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize 6 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC, and the same 3 witnesses will testify in this case.
Just a reminder, the witnesses are still under oath.
Okay. And Levi, let's start with exhibit number 1, if you can identify for us the 2 proposed spacing units.
Yes, Exhibit 1 is a location map of Township 157 North, Range 98 West, Williams County. In blue are the existing DSUs, the first 1280, stand-up 1280 of 2 and 11, the second stand-up 1280 of 14 and 23, and the third up 1280 stand-up of sections 26 and 35. And in green are the requested 1920 spacing.
Okay. Then let's move on to exhibit number 2, if you can walk us through the working interest on that first 1920.
Yep, the Exhibit 2 is the land plat of the first proposed 1920 spacing. In yellow is the Hess-operated Go Holdenfield DSU, with Hess owning 70.88% working interest, Blackstone Energy Company with 2.98%, and others with 25% working interest. And then in in blue is the Hess-operated Go Wayrock DSU, where Hess owns 65.04% working interest, Baston funding 19.69, and others with 15.27. The overall, or the combined working interest in the proposed 1920 spacing is Hess with 66.99%, Baston funding with 13%, Blackstone with 1.33, and others with 18.56%.
Okay, then let's move on to exhibit number 3 in the 1920 to the south.
Exhibit 3 is the land plat for the second 1920. In yellow is the Hess-operated Go Holdenfield DSU, as mentioned above, with 70.88% working interest for Hess, Blackstone with 3.98, and others with 25.14% working interest. And in blue is the Hess-operated Go Viewer DSU, with Hess owning 81.09%, Baston funding with 11.2%, Northern Oil with 6.25%, and others with 1.45%. The combined working interest in the proposed 1920 spacing is Hess with 77.69%, Baston funding with 7.41%, Northern Oil with 4.17%, Blackstone with just over 3%, and others with 9.35% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right, Jacob, let's move on to your exhibit number 4. Take us through the structure map.
Sure. So this is the location map, the existing DSUs in blue, and the requested 1920s in green. It's also a middle Bakken structure map with 50-foot interval showing formation dipping to the south. And the purple 8A prime is the location of the wells used in the next exhibit.
Okay, and then let's move on to your cross-section, exhibit 5.
This cross-section is flattened on the top of the Bakken formation, showing the targeted formations are present and continuous.
Okay, I have no further questions that offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right, Carson, let's start with exhibit number 5, and if you can walk us through your proposed plan of development on the northernmost 1920.
Sure. This exhibit shows the 1920 developments in the Goliath Field on sections 2, 14, and 11. The dash green lines proposed 3-mile wells drilled in the middle Bakken formation for the pad location denoted in blue.
Okay, and then let's move on to exhibit number 7, and if you can discuss the development plan on the southernmost 1920.
Correct. So this is for the southernmost 1920 sections 23, 26, and 35. The dash green lines are those proposed 3-mile wells, also in the middle Bakken, from the pad location denoted in blue to the south.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit number 8, if you could take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Sure. So Exhibit 8 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single 3-mile middle Bakken well in the Goliath area. The expected EUR is about 823,000 stock tank barrels with 3.8% recovery factor. These economics are run at $52 barrel flat, 100% working interest. The expected NPV is $9.2 million with a rate of return of roughly 41%.
Okay. And Carson, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve each of these overlapping 1920s, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Carson, looking at the caption, it was for 6 wells per 1920. Exhibits 6 and 7 are indicating 4. Is it your intent only to drill the 4 at this point?
Correct, yes. The intent is to drill the 4.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 30539. Case number 30480. Application of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Beaver Lodge Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 22, 23, 26, and 27, Township 156 North, Range 95 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. This case has been dismissed. That concludes our hearing for case number 30480. Case number 30540, application of Neptune Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ragged Butte and/or Subakken pools to establish two overlapping stand-up 1920 acre spacing units described as sections 5, 8, and 17, and sections 20, 29, and 32, Township 151 North, Range 101 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize two horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Neptune Operating LLC. I'll have three witnesses telephonically, and I'll need to call them, but it'll be Justin Mayhall, Brian Lucero, and Josh Lackner. And you guys hear me? Can I try one more time?
Sure.
Mr. Examiner, can we move this till after? I need to try to see why I can't reach those guys.
Okay, we will put a hold on case number 30540 and call our next case. Case number 30541, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ross and/or Stanley Bakken Pool to establish a 1920-acre spacing unit described as Section 211 and 14, Township 155 North, Range 90 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, and to authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom Throne, P.O. Box 6590 in Sheridan, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of Phoenix Operating. We will have 3 witnesses. Mark Johnson, who is present, Nick Daniele, and Brandon Allen, who will both be on the phone, and I need to get a hold of them before we start. Hopefully I'll have better luck than Wade did. Dial 9. Nick and Brandon, are you there? Okay, you'll be in the hearing room shortly.
Mr. Johnson,
Just let's make sure that Nick and Brandon are there. Are you still there?
We are.
Okay, thank you.
please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Mark, would you please state your name and address for the staff?
My name is Mark Johnson. I work for Phoenix Operating LLC, address 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters by the staff?
I have.
And are you personally familiar with all of the lands that are subject to this application today?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Johnson be accepted as an expert in petroleum land matters.
Motion granted.
Mark, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Starting with Exhibit 1, please describe the area in which this application applies.
Exhibit 1 is just kind of the Phoenix regional map. This case deals with our acreage down in the southeast part of this page in Montreal County.
Using Exhibit 2, please describe in detail the proposed spacing unit.
The proposed spacing unit is sections 2, 11, and 14 of 15590. And you can see that the other boxes are other units that we have either gone to hearing for or plan to in the future.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 3, please describe the contents of that exhibit. And if you would, address the 2 well bores on that exhibit and also the prior spacing application that Phoenix applied for.
Okay. Exhibit 3 kind of zooms in on sections 2, 11, and 14 of 15590. Last summer, we came to a hearing, case 30047, where we spaced 11 and 14. and we were happy with that at that time. We've since come to an agreement with Grayson Mills, who is the operator of the well you see in Section 2, and we are proposed to close that deal in February of next year, which will give us total ownership of Section 2. You can see down at the bottom of the sheet, today we currently have 32.3% working interest, and after we close that deal with Grayson Mill, we'll be at 63.5. So we would like to vacate Order 32657 if this application is approved.
And what is the status of the two well bores, the 1 and 2 and the 1 and 14?
14, the one in 14 is a plugged well bore in 2012, and the well bore in Section 2 is a currently producing well with Grayson Mills that we will purchase, and we will probably plug that well as we develop this with 3-mile laterals.
And did you prepare the gas capture affidavit, which is Exhibit 9?
I did.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson. Would ask that the Exhibits 1, 2, and 3, and 9 be admitted into the record.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Daniele,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Nick, would you please state your name and address, work address, for the record, and then spell your last name for the record?
Sure. My name's Nicholas Daniele. Last name spelled Daniele. Work for Phoenix Operating LLC with the address of 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And in what capacity are you employed by Phoenix?
VP of Geology.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert in petroleum geology?
Yes, I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
Yes, sir.
Ask that Mr. Daniele be accepted as expert witness in petroleum geology.
Motion granted.
Nick, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits?
Yep.
Starting with Exhibit 4, would you please explain the structure or describe the structure of the Middle Bakken for these lands?
Sure. This is a subsea structure map made on top of the Middle Bakken Formation. The proposed 1920-acre spacing unit is outlined in red with additional units outlined in black. The Middle Bakken horizontal producers are shown with black dots at the toes, and the Three Forks are shown with purple dots. The structure in this area dips from the northeast to west. The map is showing a 50-foot contour interval as well.
Is the proposed spacing configuration imposed on this exhibit?
Yes, sir.
And it's outlined in red, correct?
Yes.
You have a label there, type log. Do you also have AA prime as a cross-section?
Yes, sir.
Moving on to Exhibit 5, please describe the type log and also describe the cross-section identified as AA prime.
Okay. In Exhibit 5, A to A prime goes from west to east across the unit of interest. The center well, the Kavame, is the type log used for the property below. Reading the logs from left to right, the first track is gamma ray, second track is resistivity, and third track is porosity. In the middle type log, I highlighted our Middle Bakken target. Approximate TBD of 9,010 feet, average porosity of about 6%, average water saturation of 36% with a gross average thickness of 32 feet.
And have you included the reservoir characteristics on Exhibit 5?
Yes, there at the bottom, I just read them all.
Okay. Is the Middle Bakken Formation present and continuous across the entire proposed spacing unit?
Yes, sir.
And if this application is approved, from a geologic perspective, will waste be prevented, relative rights protected, and the drilling of unnecessary wells prevented?
Yes.
Have no further questions for Mr. Daniele and ask that exhibits be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Nick, this 1920 is kind of out on the eastern edge of the Bakken development play. You indicated on your Exhibit 5 that the reservoir parameters were based on the Kvamme well in 2. Did you also evaluate the well in 14, the plugged and abandoned well?
Yes, I didn't have. I'm sorry. I didn't have proper logs for that well to actually run the petrophysics on that well.
Okay, did you evaluate the production or anything from that well? Basically, my question is, are you anticipating that set of parameters to hold for the whole 1920?
Yeah, I anticipate it. So it seems like looking at wells in the area, as you slightly move to the east, the parameters start to get less favorable and less favorable. This was the only well close by that had enough log quality to run the petrophysics. So this is what we anticipate for the 1920.
When
There's
you
more favorable rock properties to a couple miles to the west of the unit, which show better characteristics for the rock quality.
Okay. When you say the characteristics decrease as you go to the east, what is it that's decreasing as you go to the east?
Your water saturation elevates. We're kind of pushing the edge of the play here, so we're going to try to tiptoe our way to the east to see what's
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Allen,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, Brandon, would you please state your name and address for the record, your work address, and also who you work for and in what capacity?
My name is Brandon Allen. I work for Phoenix Operating as the VP of Reservoir Engineer. My work address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum engineering?
Yes, I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Allen be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum engineering.
Motion granted.
Brandon, did you prepare certain exhibits for this hearing?
Yes, I did.
Starting with Exhibit 6, please describe Phoenix's proposed wellbore exam.
This is an example wellbore diagram depicting our well construction. It shows setting surface casing at approximately 2,000 feet, setting an intermediate 7-inch string inside of that once we land in the pocket, and then setting a 4.5-inch liner inside the 7-inch liner hanger top, approximately 500 feet above kickoff point.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 7, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed development plan for this spacing unit?
Our proposed development plan for this unit is 3 wells. Those are depicted in dashed green. As you have seen previous exhibits, there are 2 wells
wellbores, existing wellbores, one of which is producing in Section 2, and the Section 14 Old Sinclair well is depicted in Section 14. We would propose that we would drill these 3 wells from a multi-well pad currently planned for the southern end of Section 14.
And in many of your other proposed spacing units, you've had more wellbores than what you're proposing here. Why are you proposing fewer wellbores here?
Based on Nick Petrophysics and his model that he's using on the type log, the original oil in place and what we feel is a reasonable recovery factor does not warrant more than 3 wells based on what our type curve per well is. So we are not proposing any more wells in this unit at this time.
Okay, with that in mind, going to Exhibit 8, please describe the economics of a 3-mile lateral.
Yeah, our economics are an initial rate of approximately 25,000 barrels a month, a well life of 34 years, and then the average oil EUR, 650,000 barrels, a gas EUR of about 600 million cubic feet. In today's current commodity price environment, at a drill and complete cost of $9.6 million, our PV gross PV is approximately $13.5 million, an IRR of 24%, and a payout of approaching 3 years.
Okay, and as Exhibit 9 that Mark testified, your gas gathering affidavit?
That's correct.
And if this application is approved, in your opinion, as an expert in petroleum engineering, will it prevent waste, protect collective rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, it will.
I would ask that exhibits, I believe, 6 through 9, 6 through 8, 9's already been admitted, be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 30541. Case number 30542, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Big Stone and/or Scabo Bakken Pool to establish a 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 2 and 11, Township 159 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and Section 35, Township 160 North, Range 98 West, Divide County, North Dakota, and to authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Throne, P.O. Box 6590 in Sheridan, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of the applicant Phoenix Operating. We have the same 3 witnesses in the same locations as we had in the last hearing.
Okay, just a reminder, the witnesses are still under oath.
Okay, first witness is Mark Johnson. You realize that you're still under oath?
Yes.
And you've previously been accepted as an expert in petroleum land matters?
Yes.
Moving on to Exhibit 1, please describe the contents of this exhibit.
Again, this is our regional map. It kind of depicts a couple of the areas where we're targeting. This hearing, or this case, is talking about our acreage that kind of straddles the Divide and Williams County border.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 2, please describe in detail this proposed spacing unit.
Exhibit 2, it kind of zooms in and it shows our proposed spacing unit, which is sections 2 and 11 of 159.98 and section 35 of 160.98. And the other boxes on there are, again, things we've come to hearings for or plan to in the near future.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 3, please describe Phoenix's ownership.
Exhibit 3 again zooms it in even tighter on 2, 11, and 35. Today, our Phoenix's working interest is currently 48.2 7%. And pending deals we have will get us to 56.2 by the beginning of February.
Okay, and are there any well bores in this proposed spacing unit currently?
There's a plugged well in section 2, but no horizontal wells.
And generally speaking, are there very many horizontal wells in the area?
There is not.
And did you execute Exhibit 9, the gas capture affidavit?
I did.
I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson and ask that Exhibits 1, 2, 3, and 9 be admitted into the record.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Mark, in this area, why did you pick a 1920 that crosses the township line?
We were just looking for 3-mile laterals where our company had leasehold. There was no thoughts of crossing county lines.
In this area, I did a cursory look before the hearing, and for 30 miles to the south of this spacing unit and for 24 miles to the north of it, it's all stand-up on-pattern 1,208 acre spacing units. And the commission previously, in some in this area, set up over 1,500 stand-up 1,200 acre drilling units that were on pattern to facilitate energy corridors and prevent space units from crossing township lines, because eventually you're going to run into a correction line. And it just seems the commission over the years has had to form space units, mitigate space unit development where off-pattern space units come together, and it's not an easy task to do that without stranding some acreage. And we don't wish to go down that path again if we don't have to. And this would be establishing a pattern, like I said, for over 50 miles to the north and south has been spaced on pattern spacing units. And so I was just curious what the reason is for picking an off-pattern spacing unit right off the bat in this area.
My opinion, I mean, to the north, there's 5 miles before we kind of get to that correction area that you speak of. There's absolutely no activity in this area, so I thought that our proposal would at least, bring something to this area instead of nothing. With the 5 miles north of us before you get to the correction, I mean, someone else, maybe us, who knows, could come back and drill a 3-miler and a 2-miler, and it would stay back on section or back on pattern. But with no activity up there, we were kind of looking for some leeway where the pattern, the spacing would get messed up, but at least we could get some activity in this area to test it and see if it warrants going north, where we would probably do another 3-miler, and again, another 2-miler after that, you could, to get back onto spacing, proper spacing.
Is it your opinion in this area where it has been sparsely developed that 3-mile horizontal wells is probably going to be the norm?
Our Phoenix operating believes 3-mile laterals are definitely more effective than 2-mile laterals.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, does Phoenix currently have any leasehold in those spacing units to the north, to that correction section line?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay. Nick, are you still on the line?
Yes, sir.
And you realize you're still under oath?
Yes,
And are you personally familiar with these lands that are subject to this hearing?
I am.
Starting with Exhibit 4, would you describe the geologic structure of the Middle Bakken Formation in this area?
Yes, this is a subsea structure map made on top of the Middle Bakken Formation. The Middle Bakken in this area, in the Williams County, Divide County line, strikes from east to west and dips from north to south. Shown on the map is our proposed 1920 outlined in red. Future and other operated units by Phoenix shown in black. Middle Bakken horizontals have black dots at their toes, and Three Forks horizontal wells have purple dots at their toes. And the contour interval for this map is 50.
And on that map, have you imposed a type log as well as a cross-section?
Yes, sir.
And you also have the proposed spacing unit outlined in red?
Yes.
Moving on to Exhibit 5, please describe the type log as well as the cross-section, and then elaborate on the geologic characteristics you anticipate in this area.
Yes, sir. So cross-section A to A prime goes from west to east across the unit and to the north to the Germany 3414 well, which is our type log for the area. The data here is pretty sparse, so there's not a closer type log to the actual unit. From left to right, the wells read gamma ray, resistivity, and porosity. I had to use two horizontal wells just to show the Middle Bakken is continuous in this area for the first two wells in the cross-section. Well 3 was used for the reservoir parameters, and I highlighted the Middle Bakken target. We're expecting approximate TVD for the Middle Bakken at 90-50, average porosity of 7%, average water saturation of 32%, with a gross average thickness of 54 feet.
And is the Middle Bakken present and continuous across the entire proposed spacing unit?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear Mr. Bohr's questions to Mr. Johnson about the desire to have 3-mile laterals in this area?
Yes, sir.
From a geology perspective, do you have reasons to believe that 3-mile laterals are better than 2 miles in this area?
Yes, sir.
And would you please explain that to the staff?
Yes, from an operational standpoint, it's cheaper to drill 3-mile wells based on the return. The incremental return is more on 3-mile wells. Also, from a previous question, part of Phoenix Operating leasing effort, we have run title on most of those units to the north and are evaluating potentially going after them for operated units.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Daniele, and would ask that Exhibits 4 and 5 be admitted into the record.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Nick, as you indicated, Phoenix has a preference for 3-mile laterals. Some of the discussion already had was that the spacing unit could be corrected with another 3-mile lateral and possibly a 2-mile lateral. Would Phoenix consider drilling that 2-mile lateral, or how strong is that preference for 3-mile laterals?
I believe we would like to start off with 3-mile laterals because they're more economic. Depending on the rate of return and what the wells produce, 2-mile laterals could be viable here from our economic threshold, but we would prefer to start off with a 3 miles so we know what we have from a performance standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You can proceed.
Okay, Brandon, you still there?
Yes, sir.
And you realize that you're still under oath?
Yes, sir.
And you've previously been qualified as an expert in petroleum engineering?
I have.
And you're familiar with these lands that are subject to this application?
Yes, sir.
Starting with Exhibit 6, please describe your proposed well bore. And in the interest of time, I would describe, is there any difference between this well bore diagram and the one that was in the previous case, 30541?
There is no difference. This is an example wellbore diagram. The depths of the casing will be set as we drill the well for surface casing, but no difference between the one and this.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 7, please describe Phoenix's proposed development plan in this spacing unit.
Our proposed development plan for the spacing unit is 5 middle Bakken wells depicted in dashed green, all drilled from a multi-well pad that we are currently planning for the southern end of Section 11. We would batch drill all 5 at the same time. The proposed spacing unit is depicted in red.
On this exhibit, you're showing 5 wells, and in the last case, we had 3 wells. Would you please describe the reasoning for the additional wells in this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, based on the physical boundaries, the amount of oil that's placed in this unit is vastly different than the other area, with one based on our expected productivity, more wells in order to properly and effectively drain the unit.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 8, would you please describe the economics of a well that could be drilled in this proposed spacing unit?
Sure. As stated, the economics in the area are challenged.
If you're talking, we're not hearing you.
Oh, Tom, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Apologies. Economics, has been previously stated, are challenged. Based on our type curve for this area, we expect 30,000 barrels of oil per month in IP, with an oil EUR of 500,000 barrels, a gas EUR of 1 CF. In today's commodity price environment, and a $9.7 million well cost, our rate of return is only 19%, pay out just under 3 years. So it's something that we want to do, but as you move to 2-mile laterals, the economics get even more challenged in this area, unless there's something that will change what our options are, i.e., if the wells are more productive than our anticipated productivity curve here.
You took my next question, answered it before I got to ask it, but you've heard the discussion on 3-mile laterals versus 2-mile laterals so far, haven't you, Brandon?
Yeah.
If Phoenix were to drill 3-mile laterals in this area and the productivity turned out to be as good or better than you anticipate, would that increase the likelihood that you would be willing to drill a 2-mile lateral?
Yes, that's correct.
Because you would have more reservoir data to justify the 2-mile lateral, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And is Exhibit 9 the gas capture affidavit that Mark testified to?
It is.
Okay, I would ask that Exhibits 6, 7, and 8 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Brandon, would you be able to provide anticipated economics on a 2-mile?
Yeah.
Okay, please supplement the record with those. Thank you.
No problem.
Tom, how long would you like to leave the record open for?
Brandon, how long do you think it will take for you to prepare that exhibit?
A couple of hours, maybe less. I already have it done, so I just have to put it in an exhibit.
Okay, why don't we have it filed by the end of this week, since next week is an iffy week? If that's all right with you, Brandon?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Tom.
So leave it open till the 15th,
Record will remain open till December 15th.
and we will label that exhibit as Exhibit 10, if that's all right with the staff. Okay.
Great.
And that concludes our hearing for case number 30542.
They should be there, and if it doesn't work, I'll have them call.
Okay. All right, we're going to resume case number 30540.
Okay, go ahead and try them.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna have them call in. 328, what? Oh, yeah, 8099. Just sent it. Identified who it was, right? The witnesses?
You did.
Okay.
They just haven't been sworn in yet.
Yep. Justin, you guys there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I got you live in the hearing room. We got Brian and Josh are there as well?
Correct.
Perfect.
Mr. Mayhaw,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Justin, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Justin Mayhall, Mayhall. I'm a landman for Kraken Oil and Gas that has a subsidiary of Neptune Operating. Business address 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Justin, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Mayhall be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Justin, let's start with your exhibit number L1, if you can take us through that exhibit initially.
Yes, this is a regional locator map for the Sioux and Ragged Butte Field, both of which are within the two spacing units we'll be speaking of today. The west half of Section 5 is a part of the Sioux field that is in green. And then the east half of 5, along with 817, 20, 29, and 32 are a part of the Ragged Butte field.
Sure. Then let's move on to L2, if you can identify that first, the northern proposed 1920.
Yes, sir. That encompasses sections 5, 8, 17. It shows, as you can see below, 5 and 8, Kraken has 59% working interest in those two sections. 17 and 20, we do not have a working interest in those two sections, but we have had discussions with the operator in those, and they're familiar with what we're trying to do. The 1920 allocation combined would have Kraken currently at 39.55% working interest.
Okay. And then let's move on to L3 then, directly to the south, that proposed 1920.
Okay. Yes, that's those encompass sections 20, 29, and 32. As you can see below, Kraken has roughly a 38.25% working interest in 20 and 29. And then in 32, we have a 76.51% working interest. And with those allocations combined for the 1920, Kraken would have roughly a 51% working interest in that 1920.
Okay. And Justin, do you guys have some timing issues with respect to your proposed development on these 1920s that you'd be seeking an expedited order?
Yes, sir. We would like an expedited order due to these 1920s being on our calendar is roughly a March spud date.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Mayhall. I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Macero.
Brian, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Did you hear the hearing examiners? He's going to swear you in.
No, I did not.
Okay.
We must have lost.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Brian, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Brian Lucero. I'm employed by Kraken Resources as their geology manager. Our address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Brian, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, sir, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying these two proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lucero be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Brian, if I can have you to start with Exhibit G1, take us through that exhibit quickly.
Exhibit is, G1 is simply a locator map showing the township with the 6 sections highlighted.
Okay.
Also shows the location of our type log.
Yep. Okay. And then let's move on to G2, and if you can take us through the structure map that you have there.
G2 is a structure map built on the top of the Middle Bakken Formation, 10-foot contour interval showing dip roughly to the east-northeast.
Okay, and if we could move on to G3, if I can have you take us through your type log.
This is a representative log through the Middle Bakken in this area. It is the Lee family number 1.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Lucero. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Lochner,
Yep.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I sure do.
Josh, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yep. My name is Joshua Lochner. I'm a reservoir engineer working for Kraken Oil and Gas, for whom Neptune Operating is a subsidiary. Our business address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Josh, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony, Mr. Lochner, be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Josh, let's start with E1, if you could just describe for us how you would intend to drill and complete the proposed wells.
Exhibit E1 is a lateral wellbore schematic for the planned 15,000-foot lateral well. It consists of a 4-string design with a conductor casing, surface casing, intermediate casing, and production liner. For our simulation, we plan to do a hydraulic frac with plug and perf operation at roughly 167 feet per stage spacing through the cemented liner. And this design will be repeated across all 4 proposed wells.
Okay. Let's move on then to E2, and if you could walk us through what your development plans for each of the proposed 1,920-acre spacing units would look like.
Exhibit E2 is the proposed development diagram for the dual 1920-acre spacing units that we are proposing. The spacing units will be located entirely within Township 151 North, Range 101 West, with the northern unit encompassing Section 17, 8, and 5, and the southern unit encompassing Sections 20, 29, and 32. The proposed pad location is identified with the green box, and the proposed well bores that we will be drilling are indicated with the dashed green line.
Okay. Let's move on to the reservoir data in Exhibit E3, if you can walk us through that.
Exhibit E3 is the reservoir data for the proposed development. We estimate a Bakken thickness of 20 to 30 feet and Three Forks thickness of 15 to 25 feet. And with the subsurface properties of roughly 5,800 psi reservoir pressure, 5 to 7% porosity, and between 50 and 70% water saturation, we expect an EUR of 720,000 barrels of oil per well. These are, again, 3-mile wells within 1920-acre spacing units. The GOR will start at around 700 scf per barrel and increase over the first 2 years to 2,100 scf per barrel, and then remain roughly steady for the life of the well.
Okay. Moving on to E4, let's take a look at the economics for the proposed wells.
E4 is the project for the well economics for the proposed 1920 acre spacing unit. As I said before, we expect the EUR to be 720,000 barrels of oil per well, and with an initial investment of $11.2 million per well, and running our scenario with $70 flat oil and $3.50 flat gas price, we estimate an IRR of 87% and NPV with a 100% working interest at $8.88 million per well. The DROI is 1.84, and we expect the well to pay out in just under a year and a half. These economics are identical for each of the 4 proposed wells.
Sure. So Josh, in your opinion, if the commission would approve these 2 overlapping 1920s, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits as well as the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Josh, you're proposing the 1920s here. Looking at the map, and it looks like we've got a bunch of 2560s proposed on the lease lines between the existing 1280s. Most of the existing 1280s to the west of you, at least, would appear to be relatively fully developed. Have you considered coming in and doing the lease lines on, along with this drilling on these 1920s?
We've not considered the lease line. We think the spacing is a little too tight for this area, and the economics don't justify additional wells within these corridors.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 30540. At this time, we'll take a 10-minute break, go off the record at 10:24 a.m. We are back on the record. It is 10:34 a.m. And we'll begin with case number 30419, application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the East Fork and/or Wheelock Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. This case has been dismissed. That concludes our hearing for case number 30419. Case number 30338, application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the East Fork Bakken Pool granting an approximate 1920 acre overlapping drilling and spacing unit comprising sections 1, 12, and 13, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorizing up to 5 horizontal wells in the proposed overlapping spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Good morning. This is James Parrott with Beatty and Wozniak representing Continental Resources, and we'll have 3 witnesses today. Just want to check and make sure that everybody is on the line. There's apparently a freight train on the line. Continental, can you hear me? Okay. Do you mind if I make a quick phone call and ask them to call in? Okay, hang on just a second. They're saying that they have... Sorry, what's that, Taylor? Okay, thanks. Okay, apparently some minor technological problems. We'll hopefully have those resolved in a moment.
Okay.
System here is all fixed and working to our knowledge.
I think it's supposed to be.
They said they could hear me, so it's probably an issue on their end.
Okay.
Taylor, are you there? Okay. So if you unmute them, are we hearing music?
Continental Resources has joined the conference.
There we go.
Can you guys hear us?
We can hear you now. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Sorry for the holdup.
No problem. Quick resolution, thank you. So we should have 3 witnesses today. We have 3 people there in the room with you, Taylor. 3 people total.
Yes, we have all of them here.
Okay, we are ready to go, to move forward.
Give me their names.
So our first witness will be Taylor Titanic, testifying as to land, and that's Tytanic. Our second,
Correct.
our second witness is Chase Haddican. I'm sorry, actually, he'll be our third witness. Haddican.
Yep.
And our second witness testifying as to geology is Tyler Gruenbacher, Gruenbacher. So we'll start with Taylor.
Yep. Ms. Titanic,
Yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Maureen Taylor, please state your name and business address for the record.
Taylor Titanic. I work for Continental Resources, and their address is 20 North Broadway, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102.
Thank you. And Taylor, have you previously testified before this commission on matters pertaining to petroleum land management?
I have.
Move to have the further testimony of this witness accepted as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Taylor, did you prepare some exhibits for us to review today?
Yes, I have.
Do you have personal knowledge of the matter set forth in these exhibits?
I do, yes.
Very good. Please turn to Exhibit L1 in case number 30338 and just walk us through each exhibit. Thank you.
Sure. On Exhibit L1, this is our general locator map. It shows the existing field outlines in blue, and then in the red box shaded with yellow, those are the sections that are a part of our proposed spacing unit today for this case. On Exhibit L2 is a land plat, and it shows the proposed spacing unit that we are asking for today, and that is comprised of sections 1, 12, and 13 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West, Williams County, North Dakota. To the right of the land plat is a working interest summary that shows the working interest owners within this proposed spacing unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff? Mr. Grunbacher,
Yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Tyler, please state your name and business address for the record.
Tyler Gruenbacher, business address of 20 North Broadway Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102.
In your position with Continental?
I am employed as an exploration geologist.
And you've previously testified before this commission on matters pertaining to petroleum geology?
Yes, I have.
Move to have the further testimony of this witness accepted as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Tyler, have you prepared or directly supervised preparation of some exhibits for us today?
Yes,
Your personal knowledge of the matter set forth in these exhibits?
I do.
Okay. Please start with Exhibit G1 and walk us through your exhibits.
Okay, Exhibit G1 is our general locator map. It's showing our proposed 1920 acre spacing unit, which is highlighted in yellow, outlined in red. Displaying 50-foot contours on the map, and those contours represent the surface of the Bakken Formation. Also on the map is the type log I'm using for this unit, which is the Heidi 1-4H. It's indicated in the red star, and I believe it's representative of the rock character we expect in this 1920 acre spacing unit. And then moving into Exhibit G2 is that Heidi 1-4H type log. I'm currently showing the Bakken Pool in East Fork Field, which spans from 50 feet above the Upper Bakken Shale surface, down through the Bakken Formation, through the Three Forks Formation, to the base of the Three Forks / top of the Bird Bear. And then the reservoir parameters that are tied to this type log can be found in the text box at the bottom of Exhibit G2.
Thank you. No more questions for Mr. Grunbacher.
Any questions from the staff? Mr. Haddikin,
Yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, Chase, please state your name and business address for the record.
Chase Haddikin,
business address 20 North Broadway Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102.
And your position with Continental?
Reservoir engineer.
And have you previously testified before this commission on matters pertaining to petroleum engineering?
I have.
Move to have the further testimony of this witness accepted as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Chase, have you prepared or directly supervised the preparation of some exhibits for us today?
I have.
Personal knowledge of the matter set forth in these exhibits?
Yes.
Okay, please turn to your exhibits, and starting with Exhibit E1, just walk us through each exhibit.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the 1920 acre spacing unit comprised of sections 112, 13 of Township 156 North, 99 West. The main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with solid green and pink lines representing existing Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells, and the dashed green lines indicating the proposed Middle Bakken wells. Moving on to Exhibit E2. Exhibit E2 is a schematic of our typical 3-mile Middle Bakken well. We are showing a TD of 26,000 feet MD with a 7-inch casing point at 11,000 feet MD, which puts our lateral length at roughly 15,000 feet. The lateral will be cemented and completed with roughly 50 plug and perf stages paired with hydraulic fracturing operations. Moving on to Exhibit E3. Exhibit E3 outlines the reserve economics for an individual Middle Bakken type curve. Starting with the reserve section, we're expecting an oil IP of 1,300 barrels of oil per day, an oil EUR of 628 MBO, gas EUR of 1,387 MCF, a BOE EUR of 859 MBOE, and an EUR GOR of 2208 standard cubic feet per barrel. Moving on to the economic section, with a total estimated gross drilling and completion cost of $10.186 million, a 60-3 oil and gas price deck, and the reserves mentioned above, we are expecting a total PV10 of $4.112 million per well, a rate of return of 44% per well, and the undiscounted payout of 1.6 years. Also shown are the reservoir parameters broken out for the Middle Bakken, as Tyler previously spoke to in Exhibit G2.
Okay, thank you. No more questions for Mr. Haddikin.
Any questions from the staff?
We additionally have Exhibit GM-1, the affidavit regarding gas capture policy. Move to have Exhibits L1 and L2, G1, G2, and Exhibits E1 through E3 and GM1 admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. That concludes our hearing for case number 30338. Case number 30339, application of Continental Resources for an order amending the field rules for the East Fork Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota as follows. 1, create and establish an overlapping 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit comprising sections 112 and 13, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and 2, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on said overlapping 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit with the lateral located approximately 397 feet from the west line of said proposed 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
This is James Parrott representing Continental Resources. You'll have the same 3 witnesses.
Just a reminder, the witnesses are still under oath.
I got a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
So James, this 30339 and 30340,
Yes, sir.
we should hear those together since they're requesting mere relief.
Yes, sir.
And then as far as the establishing the space unit of 1, 12, and 13, we took care of that in the previous case, is that right?
Are you talking about last month, or are you talking about case
30
number 30338?
30338, that was the hearing to establish that space unit, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So we don't need to reestablish it in this one?
I mean, unless you want to have a legally distinct but geographically identical spacing unit for a mirror line, a mirror well, then no, we don't need to reestablish the unit. We can just authorize that mirror well within the existing unit
Okay, I think that's the way we should proceed.
at the commission's pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will then call case number 30340 as in addition to 30339. Case number 30340 is an application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the East Fork Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota as follows. 1, create and establish an overlapping 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit comprising sections 2, 11, and 14, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and 2, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on said overlapping 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit with a lateral located approximately 362 feet from the east line of said proposed 1920-acre drilling and spacing unit. All interested parties have already come forward, correct?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So James, in 30340, that establishment of that space unit consisting of 2, 11, and 14, that was heard under case 30341, is that correct?
Last month. Yes, correct.
So we don't need to go over that, establishing that space unit again?
I think it would be appropriate to treat that the same as 30339.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the cases to be heard will be amended as suggested by the commission staff.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
you can proceed.
Okay. So our first witness is Taylor Titanic, and she will be presenting the exact same exhibits as presented in case number 30338. So at the commission's pleasure, I respectfully request that we take administrative notice of her testimony in 30338 and move to our next witness.
Agreed.
Okay, and for Mr. Gruenbacher, his exhibits in 30339 are identical to those exhibits presented in 30338. So again, I respectfully request we take administrative notice of his testimony and move to Mr. Haddocken.
Yep, motion granted.
Okay? And finally, for Mr. Haddocken, his exhibits also are identical as that is presented in 30338. So finally, request that we take administrative notice of his testimony in 30338 and move on to the affidavit for the gas capture policy.
Motion granted.
Thank you. So, sorry, we have a question.
So E1 is different than his previous testimony where,
We need
New
to have
well.
we need to have the testimony on the
I
well that they
apologize.
want
I apologize.
the reduced setback for it.
Thank you. You are correct. I apologize. So, Mr. Haddocken, would you please explain Exhibit E1 for us?
Yes. Exhibit E1 is directional plot showing the 1920-acre spacing unit comprised of section 112 and 13, Township 156 North, 99 West. The main point of this exhibit is to highlight the new location in that unit with the solid green and pink lines representing the Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells, and the dashed green line indicating the proposed Middle Bakken well.
Okay, thank you. And Exhibits E2 and E3 are exactly the same as you presented in case number 30338.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No more questions for Mr. Haddocken.
Any questions from staff?
Chase, on your exhibit E1, the well is proposed to be located at 397 feet from the west line. And that's
Yes.
that's the requested relief you had to establish that at 397 from the west line. What drilling buffer do you use when paralleling a setback that closely?
Roughly 50 feet.
So if we establish the setback at 350 feet roughly, that would suffice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I'll have some more questions, but we'll wait till we hear the other case and I'll combine those together.
Understood.
Chase, just a confirmation here. The previous case establishing the spacing unit was for 5 wells. This would be 1 additional well for a total of 6 to be on the 1920, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We're still gonna hear 340.
So the case 30338 was to establish 5. I want to make sure I'm clear. And 30339 is to add 1 more for a total of 6?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm good with that.
Before I proceed to 340, move to have exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, E1 through E3, and GM1 admitted to the record.
Exhibits are admitted.
And moving on to case number 30340, we'll have the same 3 witnesses. Ms. Titanic's testimony is to exhibits L1 and L2, and Mr. Gruenbacher's testimony is to exhibits G1 and G2 are going to be identical, so move to take administrative notice of their testimony offered in case number, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Only Mr. Gruenbacher's testimony is going to be identical, so move to have his testimony is to exhibits G1 and G2, take administrative notice of his testimony in case number 30338.
Motion granted.
Okay. We'll start with Ms. Titanic. Taylor, please.
One second, we have some questions.
I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
This is Lynn Helms, and I was looking ahead as I was listening to Mr. Borer's question in 339, and you're proposing a 397-foot setback or a well 397 feet from the west line, but in the companion case, you're at 362 feet, which with a 50-foot error doesn't allow for a 350-foot setback. So if you guys would address that, I think the commission would like the setback to be the same
Understood.
on the east and west side of that section line, not different setbacks. So,
Understood. Chase, when we get to you, would you please address Mr. Helms' question or concern?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Is it okay if I move to Ms. Titanic?
You can proceed.
Thank you. All right, Taylor, please turn to Exhibit L1 and walk us through both of your exhibits.
Yes. On Exhibit L1, we show our general locator map. On this map, the existing field outlines are in the color blue, and a previously approved spacing unit for sections 2, 11, and 14 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West, that is shaded in yellow and outlined in red. Exhibit L2 is a land plat that shows the previously approved 1920 acre spacing unit that covers sections 2, 11, and 14 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West. To the right of this land plat, you will see a working interest breakdown for the working interest owners within this previously approved spacing unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff?
Taylor, with respect to the previously approved 1920 of 211 and 14, do you know how many wells are currently approved for that spacing unit?
I believe it was authorized for 5 wells.
And this request for an additional well was not included in that previous 5, so this would be expanding it to 6 total wells on that 1920?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay. We've handled exhibits G1 and G2, so we'll move to Mr. Haddocken for exhibits E1 through E3. And Mr. Haddocken, I believe your testimony and the exhibits for E2 and E3 will be identical to that as presented in case number 30338, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll just cover exhibit E1, and please explain this for us.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot, 1920 acre spacing unit comprised of sections 211 and 14 of Township 156 North, 99 West. The main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with the solid green and pink lines representing Middle Bakken Three Forks 1 wells and the dashed green line indicating the proposed Middle Bakken well. And I guess to answer the previous question, if we do have the other mirror location set at 350 feet from west line, it would be our intention to also have this well at 350 feet from east line.
Thank you, and move to have Mr. Haddocken's testimony or take administrative notice of Mr. Haddocken's testimony and exhibits E2 and E3 in case number 30338, and with that, I'll submit the witness for questions.
Motion granted. Any questions from the staff?
Chase, with that bit of testimony setting the boundary or the setback at 350 feet and your proposed well at 362 feet, you got 12 feet of buffer. You previously testified that you used 50 feet. Are you actually going to be comfortable drilling that well at 362 with a 350 foot setback?
Sorry, I guess I misunderstood the previous question.
So,
I guess, yeah, 12 feet would be too tight.
so what kind of setback would you need here? Something closer to 300?
Yeah, that would probably be adequate.
And then if that were established on this side of the mirror spacing units, that would be adequate for you on the other side of the spacing unit, correct?
Yes.
I think in this case, since it was a previously established spacing unit and we're effectively adding one well, would you be able to submit a revised Exhibit E1 that included the other wells currently planned for the 1920?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Chase, the two cases, the one well's at 397, the other one is at 362. That's a 35-foot difference. Why wouldn't you propose them to be at the same location?
At this juncture, yeah, we should probably try and have them at a similar footage.
And what would that be? Would it be at the 362 or at the 397?
397.
So if you're proposing at 397, if we set a 350-foot setback on either side, you'd be fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
James, how long do you need to keep the record open for? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chase, I do have one more question. These two wells, are they going to be drilled from the same pad?
We're still working out our pad locations, but our intention would be to try and drill these from the same pad and bring them on at the same time.
Okay, so if you do drill them from different pads, the requirement would still be there that they both be completed at approximately the same time, but obviously that's probably a little easier if they're both on the same pad.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Even if they were on different pads, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Chase, would a week be sufficient time for you to get the revised Exhibit E1 to me?
Yes, sir.
May we keep the record open until December 22nd, next Friday, please?
The record will remain open until December 22nd.
Okay. Move to have.
I think we'll want a revised E1 for both cases, right, Rich? I don't think we had an exhibit in 339 that showed the other 5 wells, did we?
We did have the other 5 wells in the previous, in 338, where they provided the testimony. So
338.
combining the two, we've got it enough.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I believe that concludes our hearing for case number 30339.
I think I might need to move for the exhibits to be
Oh, go ahead.
admitted. So move for exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, exhibits E2, E3, and GM1 to be admitted into the record, with exhibit E1 to, revised exhibit E1 to follow by next Friday.
The exhibits are admitted.
Thank you.
And with that, that concludes our hearing for case number 30339 and 30340. Case number 30343, application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the East Fork Bakken Pool, granting a 1920-acre overlapping drilling and spacing unit comprising sections 24, 25, and 36, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorizing up to 5 horizontal wells in the proposed overlapping spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
This is James Parrott representing Continental Resources, and I will have the same 3 witnesses as in the previous matter.
And just a reminder, they're still under oath.
Okay. Taylor, please turn to Exhibit L1 and walk us through both your exhibits.
Yes. Exhibit L1 is our general locator map. The existing field outlines are shown with the blue line, and the proposed 1920-acre spacing unit that we are requesting in this case today is shaded in yellow and outlined in red. It's comprised of section 24, 25, and 36 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West. Exhibit L2 is a land plat that, again, shows the proposed 1920-acre spacing unit that we are asking for today. To the right of the land plat, we have a working interest owner breakdown for this proposed 3-mile unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff?
Okay. Tyler, with the exception of the outline of the proposed spacing unit, are your exhibits for 30343 identical to that which you presented in 30338?
Yes, they're identical.
Move to take administrative notice of exhibits in Mr. Grunbacher's testimony in 30338 for purposes of this matter.
Motion granted.
Okay. Let's turn to Mr. Haddocken. Chase, are your exhibits L2 and L3 identical to those presented in 30338?
E2 and E3?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just have you present exhibit E1 then, please.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the 1920-acre spacing unit, comprised of sections 24, 25, and 36 of 156 North, 99 West. The main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with the solid green and pink lines representing existing Middle Bakken and Three Forks 1 wells, and the dashed green lines indicating the proposed Middle Bakken wells.
Thank you. No more questions for Mr. Haddocken, and move to take administrative notice of exhibits in his testimony, E2 and E3, presented in case 30338. And
Motion.
present the witness for questions.
Motion granted. Any questions from the staff?
I will note that we do have a overlapping section line unit, incorporating this unit, which it will address a section line well to be drilled on the western section line of this unit. That'll be case number 30345. And then we have a similar section line application, section line space unit application for the east side of this unit in 30346. So I just thought I'd see if there are any questions for Mr. Haddocken.
Well, let's go back to 30343. Do you want to admit the exhibits?
Yes, I just wanted to see if it seemed like there were some questions about the base spacing unit when we were doing the mirror line wells in the prior cases, so I thought I'd just raise that issue now. If there are any questions for the base spacing unit that we should address while we're doing the base spacing unit that might be relevant to the section line units. And maybe I'm making things too complicated. We could just deal with that.
Yeah, why don't we wait till we call those
Okay.
cases?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so move to have exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, E1 through E3, and exhibit GM1, which is the gas capture policy affidavit, admitted into the record.
The exhibits are admitted. Anything further from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 30343.
Mr. Garner, would it be possible to place 30344 at the back end of our hearings today and move to 30345 and 30346 because they are sort of the companion section line units to this case that we just concluded?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll jump ahead to case number 30345. Application of Continental Resources for an order for the East Fork Bakken Pool and Wheelock Bakken Pool, granting a 38, 40-acre overlapping spacing unit comprising sections 23, 24, 25, 26, 35, and 36, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, Williams County, North Dakota, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 38, 40-acre spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
This is James Parrott representing Continental Resources. And we'll have the same three witnesses as in the prior case.
And the witnesses are still under oath.
Okay, Ms. Titanic, please explain exhibits L1 and L2 for us.
Yes, Exhibit L1 is a general locator map. It shows the existing field outlines in blue, and the 6 sections that are shaded in yellow and outlined in red, those sections comprise the spacing unit that we are asking for in this case. Exhibit L2 is a land plat, and it shows sections 23, 24, 25, 26, 35, and 36 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West. Those 6 sections comprise the 3,840 acre spacing unit that we are requesting in this case. To the right of the land plat is a working interest breakdown showing the working interest owners in this proposed spacing unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff?
Okay, Tyler, with the exception of the outline of the proposed spacing unit, your exhibits and testimony are identical to that offered in case number 30338, correct?
That's correct.
Move to have Mr. Grunbacher's testimony, or move to take administrative notice of Mr. Grunbacher's testimony and exhibits offered in case number 30338 for purposes of this case.
Motion granted.
Okay, moving on to exhibit C1 through
Any questions from the
I'm
staff
sorry.
on that? Okay, you can proceed.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Moving on to Mr. Haddocken. Mr. Haddocken, your exhibits E2 and E3 and your testimony would be identical to that offered in case number 30338, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's have you just cover exhibit number E1 then, please.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the 38, 40 acre spacing unit comprised of sections 23, 24, 26, 25, 35, and 36 of 156 North, 99 West. Main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with the solid green and pink lines representing the existing Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells, and the dashed green line indicating the proposed Middle Bakken well.
And just for purposes of clarification, it's a little bit difficult to see on our exhibit that we're looking at. The dashed green line looks a little solid, but it's running down the directly down the center line between the north-south center line between the sections, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No more questions for Mr. Haddikin.
Any questions from the staff?
Okay, move to have Mr. Haddikin's exhibits or move to take administrative notice of Mr. Haddikin's testimony exhibits, offering case number 30338 for purposes of this case.
Motion granted.
And move to have exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, E1 through E3, and GM1, which is the gas capture policy affidavit, admitted.
The exhibits are admitted. Anything further from the staff? Case number 30346. Application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the East Fork Bakken Pool and Wheelock Bakken Pool, granting a 3840 acre overlapping spacing unit comprising sections 24, 25, 20, and 36, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and sections 19, 30, and 31, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing space units of said proposed overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
This is James Parrott representing Continental Resources, and I'll have the same three witnesses as the prior matter.
And they remain under oath.
All right. Taylor, please explain exhibits L1 and L2 for us.
Exhibit L1 is a general locator map. The existing field outlines are shown on this map with a blue color. The 6 sections that are a part of the spacing unit we are requesting today are shaded in yellow and outlined in red. On Exhibit L2, this is a land plat, and it shows the 6 sections that we are requesting to be a part of the proposed spacing unit in this case. Those sections are sections 24, 25, and 36 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and sections 19, 30, and 31 of Township 156 North, Range 98 West. Together, these 6 sections comprise 3,840 acres, and that is the spacing unit we are requesting in this hearing. To the right of the land plat is a working interest owner breakdown for this proposed spacing unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff?
Taylor, others are listed over 50%. Do you know who those working interest owners are?
At this time, we are still having our land brokers complete that research. However, we do know that Hess Bakken was the other largest owner besides Continental in this proposed unit.
So is Continental the largest owner?
Yes, we are.
And I assume you'll work with the other interests to see who's going to operate the spacing unit?
Yes, we've already come to an agreement with Hess.
That's still less than 50%, right?
Correct. That's about sitting at like 49%. So the other owners, we will work diligently with any of them that contact us regarding that topic.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to exhibits G1 and G2. Tyler, with the exception of the outline of the proposed 3840 acre spacing unit on exhibit G1, These exhibits in your testimony would be identical to that as in case number 30338, correct?
Exhibit G2 is different because I'm showing the Wheelock Field, Bakken Pool on the type log, as well as the East Fork Field.
Okay. Well, let's just have you walk through your exhibits one by one then, please.
Exhibit G1 is our general locator map. I'm showing that proposed 38, 40 acre spacing unit in the red box highlighted in yellow. Once again, I'm showing the Heidi 1-4H as the type log for this unit, and having similar rock characteristics as what we expect to encounter. And then also on Exhibit G1, showing the 50-foot contour of the structure on the Upper Bakken Shale over the general map location area. And then moving to Exhibit G2, on our Heidi 1-4H type log, I am displaying the Bakken Pool for the East Fork Field, which spans 50 feet above the Upper Bakken Shale through the Bakken and Three Forks formations to the base of the Three Forks formation. Also showing the Bakken Pool for the Wheelock Field, which spans from 50 feet above the Upper Bakken Shale to 50 feet below the top of the Three Forks. And once again, our reservoir parameters associated with the type log can be found in the text box at the bottom of the exhibit.
Thank you. No more questions for Mr. Grunbacher.
Any questions from the staff?
Okay, moving on to Mr. Haddocken. Chase, are your exhibits and testimony E2 and E3 the same as that presented in 30338?
Yes, sir.
So let's just focus on Exhibit E1, and please explain this exhibit for us.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the 38-40 acre spacing unit, comprised of sections 24, 25, and 36 of 156 North, 99 West, and sections 19, 30, and 31 of 156 North, 98 West. The main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with the solid green and pink lines representing existing Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells, and the dashed green line indicating the proposed Middle Bakken well.
Thank you. And with that, I'll move to take administrative notice of Mr. Haddock's testimony exhibits, E2 and E3, presented in case number 30338, and present the witness for exhibit, or for questions.
Motion granted. Any questions from the staff?
Okay, and I will note that case number 30343, case number 30345, in this case, comprise what amounts to essentially a full unit development plan with section line wells on the east and west sides of the spacing unit, and then wells within the spacing unit. So if there are no more questions about that, I'll move to admit the exhibits. Move for exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, E1 through E3, and exhibit GM1, which is the gas capture policy affidavit, to be admitted.
The exhibits are admitted. Anything further from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 30346. We will now jump back to case number 30344. Application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the East Fork Bakken Pool and Wheelock Bakken Pool, granting a 38-40 acre overlapping spacing unit comprising sections 1, 12, and 13, Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and sections 6, 7, and 18, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 38-40 acre spacing unit. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you. This is James Parrott representing Continental Resources, and I'll have the same 3 witnesses as in the prior matters.
And they remain under oath.
Thank you. So case number 30344 amounts to essentially a companion case to case number 30338. This is for section line spacing unit involving a well down the north-south section line in the middle of the proposed unit. And with that, we'll turn to Ms. Titanic, and Taylor, please present Exhibits L1 and L2 for us.
Yes, Exhibit L1 is our general locator map. The existing field outlines are shown with the blue line. The 6 sections that are shaded in yellow and outlined in red comprise the sections that we are asking to be a part of a spacing unit for this case. Exhibit L2 is a land plat, and it shows those same 6 sections. Those sections are Section 1, 12, and 13 of Township 156 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 6, 7, and 18 of Township 156 North, Range 98 West. Together, these 6 sections comprise 3,840 acres, and they are the sections we're requesting to be a part of this proposed spacing unit. To the right of the land plat is a working interest owner breakdown for the proposed spacing unit.
Thank you. No more questions for Ms. Titanic.
Any questions from the staff?
Taylor, have Continental and Hess come to an agreement on who's going to operate this spacing unit?
Yes, we have, and that was reflected by Hess dismissing some of their other cases today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, turning to Mr. Grunbacher as to Exhibits G1 and G2. Tyler, with the exception of the outline of the proposed spacing unit, is your testimony for case number 30344 going to be identical to that presented in case number 30346?
Yes, that's correct.
Move to take administrative notice of Mr. Grunbacher's testimony exhibits presented in 30346 for purposes of this case.
Motion granted. Any questions from the staff?
Okay, let's turn to exhibits E1 through E3. Mr. Haddocken, are your exhibits E2 and E3 in your testimony going to be identical to that as presented in case number 30338?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then just please explain Exhibit E1 for us.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the 3840 acre spacing unit comprised of sections 1, 12, and 13 of 156 North, 99 West, and sections 6, 7, and 18 of 156 North, 98 West. Main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with solid green and pink lines representing Middle Bakken and TF1 wells, and the dashed green line indicating the proposed Middle Bakken well.
Thank you, and once again, just for clarification, I think there's probably a problem with my printer. The proposed well dash green line is a little bit indistinguishable, but appears running along the north-south section line between the two east and west halves of the unit. And with that,
Yes.
move to take administrative notice of Mr. Haddicken's exhibits of testimony, E2 and E3, presented in case number 30338. Present the witness for questions.
Motion granted. Any questions from the staff?
Move for exhibits L1, L2, G1, G2, E1 through E3, and GM1, which is EOG's gas capture policy affidavit, to be admitted.
Exhibits are admitted. Anything further from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 30344. And that concludes our hearings for the day. We are off the record. It is 11:29 a.m.